but Franklin Gravely taught me any and everything that you could be taught in the outdoors. I love him to death, and he had dreams, as you see. He wanted this. He'd be happy for this. And the other thing that he would be very, very happy about is the fact that you know he was a quiet person, but he was a God-fearing man. Now, there's three or four things that I really want to bring forth today. And I asked Hound Dog, did he remember Bill Chastain and Bobby Guilford and all the ones that, the older guys that are actually passed on and all that. But to prove to you what a man Franklin Gravely was, we got one, Raymond Brewer and I spent a lot of time in the muster ground. We hunted the muster ground. Me and Pat Honor stayed in there 3 weeks at a time sometimes and all. But to show you what kind of man Franklin was, we had some people come into our camp, and we called it Behind the Big High Bank. And they said, we can't get out. We stuck. We've got a Jeep turned over in the Carolina Flats. Well, nobody can get to him to get it out. I had winches on mine. Raymond had the winch on his. Well, we went to see what we'd do. Well, there's nobody to call or anything. There's 6 Jeeps there that's stranded. Nobody could get out. Well, I knew Franklin would come if we could get the message. So we made finally got somebody on the CB. We didn't have communications. We got somebody on the CB. Called Franklin, tell him Garvin Stewart needs some help in the Carolina Flats. We got a Jeep turned over and the road's blocked and we need to get in. That was the end of it. Didn't know whether he was coming or not. And they waited and waited, and they said, well, he's not coming. I said, if they got word to Franklin, he'll come. So he come. We pulled the Jeep and turned it, got it cleared back up and got him out. That was one example of how he was willing to help 24 hours a day. He worked 24 hours a day. Now, I told this one on Bobby Joe last year and and I tried to make sure we got it so Bobby Joe can back it up. To show you what kind of warden he was, we hunted fished Rock Creek. You remember me and you and Tommy Joe Patterson and all? We'd go in there and fish, and we'd catch little catfish about 6 or 8 inches long. That was just by the bushels and all, and it was an enjoyable time. But I didn't know what in the world was going on this particular time. Franklin says, we got to go back and check Rock Creek. Bobby Joe didn't go with us. It's me and Franklin and Tommy Joe Patterson. We get started in there, and I know a lot of you don't know where Rock Creek is, but that's on Jocassee, in the upper end of Jocassee, right at the North Carolina line, okay? Well, we going along, and Franklin just stops the Jeep in 1948, wasn't it? Red 1948 Jeep, wasn't it? Or 47. Anyway, the red Jeep he had, he just ends up getting out. Says, drive the Jeep on down to the river, and I'll come on. Well, you do what Franklin says. It don't matter what. So I got on the steering wheel. We drove it on down to around there, and Tommy Joe looked at me, and I looked at Tommy Joe. What's going on? I don't know. He knows there's something up his sleeve. Well, we getting there, and we was getting our stuff together, and I tried to find. I've got this old steel fishing rod that we had somewhere that they thought that was the grandest thing there ever was. But anyway, we standing there talking, and it sounded like a bunch of horses coming down the road. Huh? You remember that? Huh? Oh, okay. But anyway,
Back up over there.
anyway, it sounded like a bunch of horses coming down the road, and it was Franklin and some guy out in front of him. And as they got about like from here to that truck, I saw Franklin gaining on him, and he just tackled him, rolled him right there and everything, and there wasn't a word said. I'm speechless. Tommy Joe's speechless. Franklin gets up. You willing to talk? He ain't said a word. I wouldn't either if somebody had attacked me like he did. But anyway, he put a handcuff on him, talked to him, said, you gonna own up to it? No. He did say no. Franklin says, well, I've got evidence of you. He says, it's up to you. I didn't do nothing. Well, you gonna leave your gun in the woods? And well, by this time, I'm thinking, well, what's he shot? What's he done? And all this good stuff. A little 410 shotgun. To make a long story short, Franklin says, sit down over there, or how you gonna get out of here? We didn't see a car. We didn't see nothing. Well, anyway, he just gets up from him. Franklin walks off. He's gone about 15 minutes, and he come back. He says, I've got the evidence of it now. He said, are you gonna own up to it? No. He said, well, I guess you can go if you're not gonna own up to it. So he left, headed toward North Carolina. We was right up in the upper end, the place up there. He left. Tommy Joe says, Franklin, what you gonna do? He says, it's up to him. He says, we leaving, we're not fishing. He says, I've got a 410 shotgun. I've got all the evidence I need. We left that man in there on Rock Creek. I don't know where he ever got home or not, but Franklin said he never come back to get the gun when he turned it in or whatever. But he didn't have enough evidence to charge him and carry him in or anything, because he didn't see him with the gun in his hand, but he heard him throw it in the woods. And he went back up there and found the gun about where he thought it and got it. And I tried my best to get it, but didn't. That's the kind of person Franklin was. Now, to mention Bill Chastain and Bobby Guilford and the ones that's involved in DNR and everything and all, I always tried to do what was right. Me and Hovey Rowland hunted Caesar's Head more than we did anywhere else. I wished I had a nickel for every time that I've been left at Matthews Creek to go out and come out in North Carolina up the falls and around that way. But I had dogs that could put them out of there. Well, this particular time, Bill Chastain had not been, he was just a game warden at the time, but he ended up being number one, and Hound Dog says he's worked for him and he knows about it. Well, Hovey and I let somebody else do the driving that morning, and we are at a certain spot right where the deer were drawn all the time. Well, I told Hovey, I said, that's a doe coming around to you. No, it's a buck. No, it's a buck. I said, Hovey, it's a doe. Well, it wasn't running that fast and everything. And I had a rifle with a scope on it, and I couldn't find horns on it to save my life. I said, Hovey, whatever you do, don't shoot that. I said, the game warden's in here. Bill's in here. He was a warden. We'd seen their vehicle. Well, he shot twice and missed it, and he come on about as far as near that truck. Well, I seen horns through the scope, and I pulled the trigger, and I caught that deer right under the horns and shot the horns out of it. This is, you hearing it from a true story. If they was alive, they'd tell you. But here, I shot the horns out. I couldn't find no horns. But there's brains and everything else all over the side of a tree there. So we got to looking and everything. We found a horn. I got it in my pocket. Come on out. I get a call from Franklin. You kill a doe? Bill Chastain says you and Hobie killed a doe on Caesar's Head this morning. No, I didn't kill no doe. Are you sure? I said, I'm positive. Well, to make a long story short, Bill and Bobby Gifford hounded Franklin so bad, Franklin says, I'm going to prove a point. They made him come from Columbia. They were still down in Columbia. They made them come to Columbia, and me and Hobie had to go over there and show them the brains on the tree, and there's the horn. That's the kind of man Franklin Gravely was. He wanted to end that story that I did not kill a doe that day. Loved him to death, and I hugged his neck, and I said, thank you. I won't have to carry the burden of shooting a doe in front of the wardens. Franklin Gravely was one of the dearest friends and loved ones that I could ever have. And I wish that Jake could be here this morning, but he can't, because that's his grandson, because he's carrying the tradition on. So thanks for everybody coming, and God bless all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you said that was going to be 2 hours. You got another.
No, it's your time. Your time.
Sure.
Your time.